What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. I'm Jason Bound from Hard Money Bankers, and sitting next to me, Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. Thanks for tuning in to the number one real estate investing podcast in the whole world. So Ian hit me up this morning and was like, "Hey, dude, you know what today is?" And I'm like, "No." Looked at my calendar, nothing special. At least it wasn't special to me, but it was special to Ian because a year ago, 365 days ago, Ian retired. He retired from Baltimore City Fire Department. So what better time than to, number one, congratulate Ian for this special time frame. But more importantly, I think we should put him on the spot a little bit and review kind of where he is now. We'll go over his portfolio since retirement and everything else of what he's been up to for the last year.
Yeah. I don't know what I've been up to. It's been kind of a whirlwind, but you were just asking me before we went live on this podcast. And as I'm sitting here sharing it to a few groups that we know where people watch, is that like, you're like, yo, does it feel like it was yesterday or does it feel like it was like forever long ago? And in a good way, it was forever long. It feels like forever long ago. Like that year has taken forever to go by, but what we've done in this past year has been absolutely insane. And let's be honest. The first thing that we got going on is I think it's fitting that on the 1 year celebration, there's a hurricane just blowing through Florida.
I think we got a picture
of where we are.
I think we got a picture of that. We could put up on the screen real quick too. No pun intended, obviously, because a lot of people in Florida are getting affected by this. So stay safe if you're in Florida, if you're in the coast. But here's Hurricane Horowitz, Hurricane Ian, just flying around, flying around town. Let me ask you a question. How many states have you been to in the last year? Mostly because you've been buying deals there, but what states have you been to over the last few years?
Let's see.
Or last year, I should say.
Oh my God. Let's see. I've been to New York, Utah, Arizona, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas. What's that other state? Mississippi, Alabama, New Jersey, family vacation. But dude, we've been on the road. We've been on a lot of different things, getting out there, going and seeing sites and having a lot more freedom. Before I would have to schedule up trips. I would have to make sure it lines up with my work schedule. I'd have to make sure that someone could cover me if I couldn't be there. Just being able to do other speaking engagements, attending other events. I mean, that has been a massive change, a positive change at that. Yeah, everyone say, "Oh, well, didn't you leave the fire department for more family time?" But in the same sense, it's like now it's like production mode. Like my back's against the wall. I gotta go, and it's really put us into a hyper focused, produce income mentality. Whereas before it was like, yeah, whatever. We can still fall back on this, but being able to get out and travel, meeting new people, establishing new relationships has been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, well, I think soon as, and we did this too, because I didn't have a job when I started Hard Money Bankers. It was one of those things that, I was in the mortgage business and, didn't really love it. Didn't love it at the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm giving myself too many excuses because I can continue to fall back to this if I want to. I'm just going to go all in and I'm going to make it work because we all think about that, right? It's like I can replace my other income very, very quickly. You do one extra deal, you buy another property or something like that. So, when you don't have that fallback, then you don't have an excuse. It's like, hey man, it's go time. Let me ask you another question. And, this is not that serious of a question. Then we'll get into more serious stuff. But so you're 39 years old and you retired at 38. How many states have you been to between 0 and 38?
Well, I was relatively well-traveled on the East Coast of things from some earlier life experiences that I was able to be a part of. However, the central part of the country, I would say the amount of states I visited on the East Coast, which are way more easy to get to for all of us that are East Coasters versus the state. Oh, don't forget, I went to Nevada. Somewhere in there too, to Las Vegas for a conference. The amount of states that I traveled in this past year versus my 0 to 38 time frame was exponentially more. Some of that's from our wherewithal and what we have available to us, and to be able to get out and spend money and go do what we want to do. And then the other is just pure time freedom of being able to get out and go to what we want to go to as well. So I think that's a fair question, and it's a good way to put it into perspective of what you did from 0 to 38, and then what I want to do from 38 to say, 45 are going to be way two different things, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think we have another picture here, pre-retirement beard or the day of retirement. So that's all you could grow in 1 year?
No. So I would have to shave. So during this time frame, I had gotten injured in April of the year of that previous. Oh, well, shit. What year are we in? April of 21, I had broken my ankle. So I would have to go to the public service infirmary where we would get treated, and I would have to shave every once in a while. So that was probably about 3 or 4 months worth of growth. This is a full year of growth from that last picture that you saw. And it's been very freeing. That picture right there, actually, we pull it back up, you can kind of see it in my eyes of like, all right, I'm really doing this. Like, I'm nervous. Granted, I look a few pounds heavier, but I don't know if that's body dysmorphia or what. But I feel like you can kind of see it in my eyes of like, oh shit, this is about to go down. And actually, I should find a photo from the day after. I was looking at them with my family. Is like, just dude, when I left that day, the weight that was lifted off my shoulders, I can't even begin to explain to anyone of like what that was like, and the amount of weight that was picked up and just tossed off. And that was just leaving a W-2 job. Granted, it was a pretty demanding mentality, a mentally demanding job, but in the same sense, it was like, holy shit, dude. Like, I picked all that up, put it in a suitcase, and just dumped it off there. And I was like beyond free. And then, well, you know what happens after that? We go on a massive grind. And I think we've probably grown our business by 40 or 50% in this one. I mean, we're only talking about 1 year. I can't even imagine what 10 years from now.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So a year after you retired, Dan retired, right? I think we got a picture of him right here as well.
A month. Yeah, 1 month
after. I'm sorry, a month afterwards. Yeah. So where was this?
That was right after we bought our Baton Rouge sites. We went down there and celebrated. Actually, I can't remember if that was in the spring. That might have been in the spring leading up to it. Either way, we celebrated our closing. We went bow fishing out in the bayou, and that was a really good experience. But again, you can see how happy Dan is after he retired. Just 1 month after when I left.
Big ass smirks on both of your faces.
Yeah. Hey man, like but it's something you'd be proud of. Like, you got to remember, like, that job there is like in the fire department. That job is like, a lot of guys look at that as a long-term career option, right? And it was for a very long time. But nowadays in Baltimore and a lot of other metropolitan cities, there is over demanding. And just the run volume and the stuff you see and everything that happens, it's like, dude, guys can't mentally handle that. And I'm not saying we tapped out because of that. We tapped out because we had a lot of other stuff going on. But at a certain point, it's like you're pulling on both ends, and you got to make a decision and just go for it.
Exactly. If you're watching this on YouTube or on the Real Estate Reserve podcast, we appreciate it. You can also check it out on iTunes. So wherever you get your podcasts, feel free to tune in that way as well. So you can listen, you can watch, whatever works. If you got any value, we'd appreciate it if you shared it with a friend or hit that like button. So let's go through all the properties that you've purchased over the last year. And then after we do that, let's pick your favorite. No, not your favorite, the most profitable. Let's do that. The one that's made the most money, because I know that you've made a lot more money on some of these deals than you did than decades in the past of working W-2. Right. So
let's try to do this chronologically. I think that day when I retired or illegally retired, let's call it that, because a lot of guys like to mess with me, and it is not fair to guys to actually do a long career and retire.
Retirement's it wasn't the right word.
Yeah, I illegally retired. Let's say that. So I illegally retire. that day I retired, I think, or somewhere between that and when Dan retired, we refinanced White House Manor Apartments, left with a 7-figure payday. From there, we rolled all that cash on all of our investors into the Baton Rouge sites, which was a $11 million acquisition and $1 million CapEx project, so $12 million bucks. From there, we acquired a property in Mississippi, another property in Louisiana. From that, we then refinanced. Don't quote me. I think we refinanced. Oh, no, we bought out a partner on another small storage facility. We bought one with Shane Chapin and Scott Spear that you're a part of. Then Then from there, we refinanced 4 of the properties. And then as most recently, we were finishing up a 4-property closing and a 47-unit or a 4-property self-storage, about 110,000 square feet of storage that we're finishing up, that we will have all 4 bought by the middle of next month. And then we're buying a 47-unit multifamily building. And I think that's all we did in the past year. But I mean, we're talking about
all we did.
Oh, yeah.
All we did.
Yeah, all we did, right? But it's like crazy. Like, I can't even imagine. Like, we would get a lot of this same stuff done, I think, while we were at the fire department. But the day we quit, I was like, holy shit, how did I get any of this done? And to finish up your question, I would say as of right now, while we got a ton of good things, ton of good irons in the fire, I got to say that White House Manor Apartments I don't know, man. The universe just served that one up on a silver platter. It is the best deal that we've done to date. Eternally grateful for the owner who sold it to us, who owner financed it, remained as don't forget about the Airbnbs we bought in this time frame. That, she's become one of our best investors. What else was there? I just got to say that, White House Manor Apartments, when we refinanced, I mean, that was the one that changed our trajectory, not only from a capital raise standpoint, proof of concept of doing bigger deals, but also getting rewarded for it, getting that payday, putting that money, redeploying that capital for ourselves, for Dan and us. You want to talk about creating true legacy wealth. That's what that project did for us.
Yeah. He put you on the map and gave you the confidence to do it because, so many folks that go to our real estate investing meetup group and that are in the circles and stuff like that, they live in the single family world. They don't think they can get into the bigger commercial world. And it's interesting because as we talk and network with and have on our podcast other investors throughout the country, some of them are skip the small stuff and just start on the big stuff. And that's all they know. I mean, we've interviewed a lot of multifamily and commercial property owners, and they're like, I've never bought a residential property in my life. I don't even know how to. Right. And I feel like a lot of people that we know have gone the other way, and then they get scared because it's like, you think about it like this. Oh, I owned, this is the story. Oh, I own 10 rental properties. It's such a pain in the ass. Why would I ever want to buy a 100-unit building? Then I'll have 10x more problems than I have today. And that's not necessarily the case. And I think that you can probably attest to that, you're actually, considering unloading a big rental, some of your smaller rental properties, because there's a capacity. If you buy $100,000 property, there's a capacity of how much money you can make on one of those deals.
Yeah, it's also like resources best used, right? Like we talk about it a lot. I said, Jay, like, why don't you like loaning in the city? And it's not really because you're not comfortable loaning in the city. You're like, I can do $80,000 loan here, or I can go do an $800,000 loan in DC. It's the amount of resources it takes from you to go do a deal. Like this 4-property package that we have in Squarespace Fund 2 is we were only going to do one of the properties, but then I was like, oh, dude, I don't feel like just doing one property. Yeah, it was a $1.8 million acquisition, but I was like, this is hardly worth our goddamn time. Like, let's go out and find some other stuff and make it 4 properties, make it worth our time. Let's go out and freaking do this and do it right. So with that being said, yeah, man, it's like resources best spent. Doing single family, I beg to differ, but again, it's all like what your mentality is going into it. Me personally, I don't know that, call it maturity, call it experience, call it whatever. I don't know that our risk tolerance, even though I'm like super risky, allows us to go and buy a multifamily deal. Excuse me. I don't know that our risk tolerance allows us to go out and buy a multifamily deal on day one, take all that risk and go for it versus doing it the way we did it, where we cut our teeth on single family houses, refined the process, build a team around us, understand what it takes to manage, understand what it takes to manage vendors, the pieces of the projects that we like to do. Whereas I think if we did a big multifamily project, it would have been a lot of let's try this, a lot of let's try that. Granted, the returns could have been bigger, but the losses could have been equally, if not more, than what you would lose on a single family house. And it's crazy because like a lot of people know me as the guy that's like, fuck it, let's go. But in the same sense, I don't know that I could have done that on day one on a large project like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always started with smaller stuff as well. It's one of those things that if you look back, does it make the most sense to do it that way? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, a lot of people, I think, start on smaller stuff because that's the amount of capital that they have available at that time,
Sure.
right? So they'd rather put $20,000 into a project because that's what they have available instead of $200,000 on a project. So I think that's also why a lot of folks start at that level. I mean, we interviewed Seth in Columbus, a few months ago, and he was like, I've never bought a single family. I mean, his first property, do you remember how much he put up of his own money? 100
It was
grand?
like it was a couple $100,000.
But like he got a big debt loan, a big bank loan. Then he had to get a private lender to put up some money with him. And he put up like, every dollar that he had. And he was like, this just makes sense. He went into this as like, I don't want to mess with the small stuff. I want to get into a big deal, as soon as I can.
Yeah. And I think, but I think like some people can do it and some people can't. And, again, some of it's maturity, some of it's where you're at in your trajectory and what you know and understand. And, a little bit of defense against ourselves is like, we're in a super insulated market, right? Yes, Pete, this is live. How you doing, buddy? I'm at the shore. But we're in a super insulated
live. It's live.
Yeah, he thinks he knows when we're live or when we're not. But yeah, Pete, I'm down the beach on my last day. But anyway, is that like we're in a super insulated market, so it makes it sometimes harder for us to find those larger assets that some of the other guys in the Midwest and other parts of the country, where I don't want to say cheaper, but pricing is a little more and cap rates are a little more advantageous than what we deal with here. And I mean, like Columbus, isn't Dell or one of the biggest Intel or one of them is moving out there and they got a massive boom going on. But in the same sense, it's like we have a ton of private equity that chases a lot of deals around here. We're in the mid-Atlantic. And sometimes it makes it harder for us to chase down some of these larger deals because we're fighting such strong money. DC, New York, Boston, Florida, right? Like we deal with the whole East Coast around here where people are chasing us down. So it's not defense. Sometimes it's the market opportunities that are available to you,
So more importantly, besides just buying deals, what else happened kind of growth? Your team, we have a picture of your current team right now, which differs from your past team. Let's dive into that a little bit because it's not just, hey, do more deals. Like that's not what it's all about.
Yeah. Something that's happened over the past few months is we added a new team member. We added another project manager, which basically moved Ryan up, or not moved him up, but it definitely gave him more roles and responsibilities. So adding that team member, we're in the process of potentially adding another leasing agent type or office help type to manage the day-to-day on the portfolio. Our team is growing, and a lot of that comes from before it was always like, screw it, I'll just do it. And then it's like we left the fire department. So then it was like, oh, we got all this work to do, and then we're doing all this work. It's like, oh my God, I can't even I don't think we realized how much stuff we were per se neglecting, or just like from a time management standpoint, it was like, well, I missed yesterday, so I got to work tenfold harder today because I'm here. And then it was like, oh wow, I got all this stuff to do, and then it's like, man, I don't feel like doing this because I'm not really good at it. I want to find a team member who can help us. And if we're going to continue to grow and build a company, that's what's required. So we added Andrew Tucker to our team as another project manager, and we are working on adding another maintenance guy and potentially another office helper, which will be huge for us as well.
How do you guys? We just showed if you're watching this live, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see these pictures. If you were listening to this on iTunes, you cannot, but that's okay. Feel free to overlap platforms to hear or listen. So, related to your team, how do you guys manage? I know a lot of the assets are local. How do you guys manage your out-of-state assets with your local team?
Yeah. And again, that was another thing that was an eye-opening experience as I think as we transitioned away from doing a lot of day-to-day and being in the fire department and what we really wanted to concentrate on. And as we expanded our portfolio outside of our jurisdiction, we realized that we wanted to potentially rely on property management. And that's the advantage of buying a storage. A lot of the requirements of property managers are way different than what it is in the residential real estate world. So that's good. Other than that, we're managing through them with a call center, boots on the ground. Ryan and Andrew both travel to and from the sites, sometimes on a monthly basis, sometimes on a quarterly or semi-annual basis, depending where they are in the process. And, also, watching vendors via cameras, right? Like that's something that's super important to us is getting eyes on the facility and having a way to communicate to and from our vendors and having a omnipresence, almost as we all have omnipresence online, of just being in the know, right? And keeping people accountable, holding them accountable, which is really hard to do from afar sometimes if you don't have the right processes in place or the right team members overseeing it. Like, I'm not a good team member to oversee some of the projects from afar. I'm the better team member to potentially go talk to the local jurisdictions, wheel and deal, permitting and stuff like that. But I'm not the right person to actively manage the day to day. And that's where Ryan and Andrew step in on our side of things to manage the CapEx. And then our property managers manage the day to day. Because what we realized as we started to do larger projects like White House and Gaslight and a few of these other sites that are non-storage things, we realized, hey, we're really good at doing CapEx and putting the deals together. And so the day-to-day we can handle, but it detracts us away from what we want to do on the CapEx side of things. And that's where we decided to move to third-party property management on a lot of our non-residential assets.
Got it. What's next? Do you are you guys at typically inside our business, at least I've always kind of looked at things as growth phase or execution phase. I mean, we have a lot of different phases, I would call it, but those are the two kind of big ones, growth and execution. Like, are you still on growth or are you on execution, or where are you at right now?
We're on execution. However, with the market kind of turning upside down, which we have not done a show on where the market stands, I would say we're massively on execution mode right now. We got a lot of really good things going on at Gaslight, a lot of crazy letter of intents that have come through for leasing that's taken up some of our time. White House finishing up a lot of CapEx. And then all of our storage stuff. We just did a massive lift on Squarespace Storage Fund 1. And then we're actively working on Squarespace Storage Fund 2, getting all the capital in and getting all the CapEx completed there. But I think an interesting thing, and I think this is where a lot of people kind of go sideways, and it's even from there's some good debates going around right now of the why more versus the how do I do more rooms. It's the same thing as look, we're in execution mode, but today a stupid deal fell on my lap that I'm like, all right, well, I really got to spend some time on this. And if it's the right closing time frame, I am going to execute on that opportunity. However, if it's going to affect what we got going on, and a lot of that is understanding your team, understanding the dynamics of your team. I feel as though I know when Ryan's kind of at the edge of his workload, or he needs another team member, or Dan's at the edge of his workload, or when I'm at the edge of my workload, where it's yo, dude, unless we add this team member, we cannot do anymore. So if we're going to buy this deal, this is what we need to do to continue to grow. And I don't think enough people stop and think about what they need to continue to execute. I think a lot of people say, oh, well, you know what? I got one deal or I got a few deals. I'm good. Like, I'm just going to go enjoy life. And then you're not a productive member of society anymore. And that's actually the worst thing that you could be doing. So I have no clue how I went off on my tangent about that stuff, but it's something that's been top and near and dear to my heart, that it's like, yeah, man, like we can continue to grow, we can continue to execute, but if you're not keeping eyes on both, you're not going to do either.
Yeah, I'm curious to know, for everybody listening or watching, are you currently in growth or execution mode, and why? And I mean, I recall over the years inside our business, Hard Money Bankers, like every few years it was kind of like, oh, we're in execution mode. Oh, we're in growth mode. And it's like, hey, we want to set up a new office. We want to expand our loan portfolio. We want to do this. We want to do this. And then next thing you know, like we have an influx of, really good deals, a good portfolio, well-staffed. And it's like, you know what? We got a good thing going right now. Let's execute and let's kill it with what we have in place, because, we have a good thing, right? And then, you get a little bit more ambitious and you want to grow again. And I mean, I know you guys are taking down, you have a few more projects between now and the end of the year that you're taking down. And I would guess that kind of pushes you into that execution phase, all of Q1 probably. But again, good opportunity comes. It's not like you're going to pass on it. But if a normal opportunity comes and it's like, yeah, I don't know, I'm probably just going to pass on this. It might have been something you would have picked up 6 months ago. But, unless it's, a real kind of home run deal, you might pass on it. We all get in, have feelings like that.
Well, yeah, and I don't think enough people stop and say, like, what do I want, right? Like we have some goals, and we had some conversations around, and this was me go, oh, I went to Ohio too. Don't forget, I went to that mastermind event. Jesus, I can't even keep track of where I've been.
That's what I'm saying. That's why we had to do a count.
So I went to Ohio. I went to a mastermind event with Tim Bratz, right? Like he had a $300 million portfolio. My question was in that room is like, what do I need to go from this amount of portfolio to the next level? And coming back home, hey, Ryan, what do you need to think that we can double our portfolio? And it's not all about dollars and cents and growth, but the dollar and cents of growth is a measure of, impact and other things that we're doing, that make financial sense for ourselves, that allow us to have stability in our lives, right? And, by adding that one team member, if that allows us to double our portfolio and get it into potentially a 9-figure number, like I'm going to take that risk because I think we have the wherewithal to get it done. Okay, well, what's the next team member that takes us from that number up into the mid 9-figure numbers, right? Like, and again, is it all about the dollars and cents? No, a lot of it is like, hey man, we're supporting our employees, right? Like we have homes and households that count on us producing income. Dude, that's like way more important than any dollar and cents that come in, for me anyway, that come into my pocket. I enjoy what comes into my pocket, but in the same sense, it's like, yo, we're providing lives for people, and we're providing quality housing for tenants and storage. And yeah, there's a financial reward for what we do, but in the same sense, like you can never really measure that impact that is the ancillary benefit of everything that we do.
Were all these goals written down on a piece of paper that you've accomplished over the last year, would you say?
Like super formal, like this is the business plan I'm going to execute. No, but I will sometimes flying home, I'll write down notes of like, where do I want to be? And I just stick the notes in. And it's just like taking the time to conceptualize it. I want X amount of square feet. I want to be able to do this with my family. I want to do this, this activity, right? Like there's a lot of things that get written down. I'm not like super formal, although I was going through my notes the other day on Dropbox. I did write down 2022 goals, and then I was going through my notes. I did write down some stuff here and there. And a lot of stuff has come to fruition. And, you talk about writing down goals. I remember when I bought my first property, and then me and Dan had teamed up there shortly after. I said, I want to retire by the time I'm 40. Like, I want to do it. And then I kind of forgot about that goal. And then, like, as we were coming up on that, like, achieving it, I was like, holy shit. I remember where I was. I was up on Lock Raven Boulevard at one of our flips. I was like, dude, I want to retire by the time we're 40. And we did it, dude. We did it. Even though it wasn't like on the board, always chasing it. It was just in the back of your mind, and we did it. My brother said, he's 35 and he's working on trying to create a business. He's like, I want to retire by the time I'm 40. So I said the same thing, and it happened. I never thought in a million years that it would. And then one day, boom, it happened, man. And I think whether you're a formal person that needs a weekly written business plan or you're more of a loose cannon like myself, I think that's you need to take the time to meditate, think, write it down, talk to yourself about it. Just draw something, and I think it goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, put it wherever you can. About 6 months ago, you probably, if you've been listening to this show for a while, you probably heard us talk about a LFG mastermind that a private mastermind that Ian did. Well, he sent me. I'm not going to share this whole thing. I put out where the address is because if it's an invite only one, so it's up to you and Ian if
send me a DM if you want to make the cut.
Exactly. If you're able to come, that has nothing to do with me. But related to goal setting, one of the things that Ian did was he made, before they left I spoke at the event, but I also, attended it. And the last day he made every single person fill out a 6-month goal sheet. And it was like, write down some of your goals from 6 months from now. Ian put it in a self-addressed, long story short, Ian took it, put it in this. Like, I had to fill out a self-addressed envelope with my goals in it, put it in there. Ian didn't see what the goals are, right? And then he shipped it to me 6 months ago. So that's that. And I pulled it out when Ian sent this to me a few days ago. And I had about 4 or 5 goals on there. And for the most part, I hit every single one of them except one. So you write those things down. And these are goals that I'm not done yet. I mean, these were my goals to finish before the end of the year. But, we're big. Me and my business partner, Chris, are very big on goal setting. We've done videos and podcasts related to it and the way to set it up. I mean, I had one of our coaches that me and Chris each had. It cost us $30,000-$40,000 a year for us to have this coach. And we had him for maybe 3 or 4 years. And pretty much all we ever discussed was how to set goals and how to hold yourself accountable and how to break them down and reviewing them and things like that. And like talking through them. And just by me getting on the phone with him via Zoom or meeting him in person, a few times a month, it's like, hey, how are you at here? Do you need help with this? Do you need this? Like, why do you want this goal? You keep telling me you want to be doing these things, but you're not doing them. So why even write it down as a goal? And then you think to yourself, it's like, you know what? Maybe that isn't as important as I thought it would be. So the goal thing is so important. And to me, anything I put on paper, for the most part, it's like Santa's wish list. It just comes true.
Exactly.
It literally works.
Some of it's accountability to yourself, right? And then some of it is like, well, that was my goal, but does it line with my core values, right? Like, I think some people are like, oh, I want the Ferrari, but like there's certain dudes that want the Ferrari that just would not fit their lifestyle. And it's such a ridiculous goal that it wouldn't fit, right?
Well, and what I would tell them is like, no, you don't. Well, what do you mean? How do you know what I want? Because I see the actions that you're taking every day and you're not taking the actions to do that, right? I want to be a scratch golfer, but no, I don't want to be a scratch golfer. I say I do, but like, yeah, I want to be a scratch golfer by, pressing a red easy button or paying $100 to just automatically.
I'd pay $100.
Yes, scratch golfer. But that's not like the actions that I take on a regular basis keeps me at the handicap in golf that I'm at because that's what it is. Like if I wanted, do you have the ability or the capabilities to be? Maybe. But it doesn't happen like that. Like you have to put in the necessary things on a regular basis to do so.
Yeah. And I want to say one other thing about goal setting and vision. And Terry, if you're watching,
it's all about Terry.
No, I hope he's okay with me sharing it because we were in a group together the other day in New York, and everyone kind of got on him and a few other guys about having visions and whatever else. And you could see that like some of the guys were kind of like they were like numb to it. They're like, all right, I don't want to hear about it because it doesn't fit. Not everyone's good with like making a vision board or doing this or doing that, right? I was on a podcast with Terry the other day discussing this. Is like, I said to Terry, I said, don't create a vision, just create an org chart for your business. And creating that org chart, seeing where you are in it and where you want to be and where you don't want to be, that's creating a vision, right? Like, everyone thinks that vision is like, I want to live at the beach, I want a private jet, I want this, I want that. Sometimes there's visions that are just like truly only for the business of like, here's the org chart, this is how I want to work, and then boom, execute it, and then like keep leveling up. And so you could have different visions or different things in every part of your life. Maybe you do an org chart for your life. Your wife has to clean that, or I have to clean the house, I have to cook, my wife takes care of the kids, whatever it is. It's like, hey babe, like, what do you want to do or don't want to do? Well, I don't want to clean the goddamn house anymore, I don't want to cook anymore, I just want to do food prep and that's it. Or I want to cook. Okay, well, now we need to redo it. So call it an org chart, call it a vision, call it whatever it is. Do what works for you. You don't have to do this, I want to work 10 minutes a day and that's the only thing that I'm worried about. Like, you got lofty goals, but also like be realistic in some of them too. So like, my lofty goal is I want a private jet, right? And everyone's like, well, you need a private jet. I don't know. It's the most unobtainable goal that I could think about, that when I have enough money to obtain that goal, at that point, I'll decide if I need a private jet or not. And it's nothing more than, I know it forces me to take the actions to have a stable lifestyle and produce for my family, that if I could get to that point and have a private jet, then I'll have that discussion. But I don't necessarily need it. I know it just motivates me to continue to drive towards that goal.
It's also the process of getting there. I mean, it's right. Your private jet is Gary Vaynerchuk's New York Jets. New York Jets. It's the same. It's the thing. It's the process. Yep. That's, hey, I'm going to wake up and that's a really big, lofty, audacious goal that I'm going to freaking go after every day. Right? Do you want it? Yep. Do you not want? I mean, who knows when you get there? But keep in mind, when you get there, well, what's the next goal? It's like, hey, I don't want this crappy little private jet. I want a big ass, nice jet. And keep in mind, you've already talked about, hey, you can make money with your private jet, or at least at the worst case, break even by leasing it out and doing things like that. So you need that stuff. And not only do you need it, like, hey, in the back of your brain's not real. Like, that's not a physical place to put it. It's got to be written down. It's got to be freaking hanging on your wall. It's got to be someplace that's like, hey, I'm waking up every day to get to this.
Right. Yeah. No, I feel like I'm more motivated by that than I am. Like, I love my weekly income goal, but I'm like, well, if I could get to the private jet, then I know my weekly income goal is met. Right. Like, that's how I view it. And it doesn't always mean that it's right. And actually, there's a few good questions, but like Michelle Walters, I think, Jay, you should put that up and we should discuss it right now, just because we're talking about this, is like trying to figure out what your goals are. If you don't know what your goals are, I don't know, Jay, what you think, but like, I would start by just writing down, like, what do you believe in? I believe in being a good person. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then start building your business goals around that. You know, I think that's a great way to start, or the other way to do it is, if I had X number of dollars, then I would feel like this, then great. And then start building your goals around those types of things. There's a bunch of ways to do it. Just sit down and write. You'd be amazed what comes out of your body. Sometimes it's good things, sometimes it's bad things, but it gets out of your body and clears your mind.
Yeah, you can divide them into certain categories, right? So you can be like business, personal finance, personal goals, family goals, things like that. So it's like, okay, well, let's break down each one of them. Okay, maybe you have a financial goal of like, I want to make, I want to have $1 million in liquid. Liquid $1 million. Okay. How are you going to break that down? And what time frame do you want that at? 5 years from now? Okay. In order to do that, depending on what, how much money somebody makes or what field that they're in or things like that, it's like, okay, well, maybe I'm a real estate agent and I can make, whatever, $5,000 on every deal, right? Just, it's just a math equation, right? You figure it out and you back it out. And it's like, okay, well, every deal I do, how many sellers do I need to know? How many buyers do I have to drive around? Whatever that case is, and you back it out, and then you figure out, how many you need to be working with in the next day or two. Because to hit really lofty goals, the action steps for today, tomorrow, a week from now, a year from now, is not actually all that extreme. It's a lot of baby steps that compound into that. It's the same thing with any other goal, business goals, personal goals. Let's say you have a few hobbies that you really like, travel goals, whatever it is.
Who was it? Jay Scott. He said, I just try to increase my daily income by $10 a week or a day or something like that. Like, it was just like, he broke it down to so minute of like a daily goal of like, what can I do today to make an extra $10 or whatever it was, something along those lines. But, I think sometimes they don't set lofty enough goals. So then when they break it down, they go, oh, it's too easy to do versus saying, I want a private jet. Okay, well, I have a private jet. I need this much in income. If I need that much in income, this is what I need to do to create that income stream and then see it to fruition. There's a lot of bumps and bruises that come with it. And like Jay said, it's not hard per se, or it's not unfathomable, but in the same sense, it can feel like such an uphill battle that sometimes you need to have the wins, dude. Like you need a small win here and there and celebrate that win to keep you motivated, because too many people are like, all right, I hit that goal, and they fall off the cliff. There's nothing on the other side. Well, once you hit a goal, you reassess it. Goals are like budgets, I think. Goals are like budgets because a budget's a living, breathing, working document. And a lot of people are like, oh, this is in the budget. This is what I got to do, right? No, it's like, this is the budget. I overspent. Let me readjust for the next month. It's a living, breathing thing that you need to be a part of every single day. And it's the same thing with your goals.
Yep. Exactly. All right, let's put Pete's question up here real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. So, Ian, what's one thing you actually miss about your W-2 job?
I did have a very unique W-2 job where we had more of a brotherhood and a culture. The number one thing that I miss, for all you guys that are watching, try not to cry. But I miss the guys and gals that I work with because it was truly a community. My home kitchen table is definitely not the same kitchen table that I used to sit at around the firehouse. Little different conversations, right? But that's the number one thing I miss. We've been, not that I look like it, but been going to the gym to kind of get some of that like alpha male interaction. Excuse me. That alpha male interaction type thing. That's really the number one thing that I miss. I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because I'm joking here. Is that's it. That's really it. I mean, I love going to fires. I loved what we did and helping people and all that other stuff. But being able to reframe it and helping people through creating employment and the trajectory that the company's on as a whole. I'm dying, John. Leave me alone. That's what's important to me now. And I guess you could say some of my goals have changed, right? Well, like when I was in the fire department, my only goal was to be a 30-year fireman, and it was salty. And I'm only working ghetto firehouses, and that was cool. But my goals and aspirations changed, and it's okay. I had a massive identity crisis leaving. So did Daniel. And getting through that was actually a huge hurdle, and it worked out the way it was supposed to. And that's it, man. That's really it.
And now you can help so many more people in a lot of different ways. And we'll kind of leave with this. It's actually selfish to not push the gas pedal down to your full potential, because you're doing a disservice to so many people that you could potentially help. I mean, it's not a bad approach that Ian wants to go make more money and do more deals, because this is what happens when that occurs. The more money you make, the more people you can help. The more deals that you can do, the more people you can help. Your staff grows, your vendors grow, the amount of clients that you have grow. They have more places to live, store their stuff, things like that. I mean, making more money is one side of it, but like, you can choose what you do with your money. I mean, I can attest that Ian lives the same lifestyle now that he lived before financially, right? So like, what does that extra money go towards? Because that's what everybody thinks. It's like, oh, well, you just want to have all this money so you can go buy more things. Like, that's a selfish, like, I've always thought, like, if you're not going full capacity to your full potential, you're being selfish, because imagine how many more people you can help by doing stuff responsibly and the right way. There's no point to like people are counting on you, right? People are counting on you. Like I know for a fact that if you go buy another 100-unit building, you're going to provide more value to those tenants than the past owner would, right? That's just one small example, but the bigger you get, the better it is. And it's not a selfish comment. It's not being selfish. I think a lot of people think like, oh, it's greedy. I don't need this much money. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the more means you have, the more people you can help.
Yeah. And just because one doesn't lead with, I'm doing everything to help people and do this and do that, doesn't mean that the person's bad. It's like, hey, I got financial goals, and that's what motivates me to have these other benefits that come along with that of helping people and everything along those lines, So, yeah, man, it's crazy where we've been and where we're going, and I look forward to the future and continuing this podcast and continuing doing what we're doing and headed down that path.
And let's just add this picture right back to the stream one more time. If somebody's tuning in late and you're watching this on YouTube, no pun intended. Hopefully everybody in Florida stays safe. For everyone who asked if we're live, yes, we're live because this is happening in real time. But Hurricane Horowitz, aka Hurricane Ian, swooping through. He's grown his portfolio in a lot of different areas. Hopefully everybody who is in Florida obviously stays safe.
I'm coming for Blake. That's all. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to get Blake. That's it.
All right. So. Yeah, we actually got to touch base. I should text Blake, see how he's doing.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't texted, so I got to assume he's alive. So, yeah, man. No, it's crazy. It's crazy to think. And like what John said, am I helping more people now than I did as a fireman? I can tell you this much. The people that I'm helping are much more appreciative than some of the people that I used to deal with in the streets and some of the situations that we were involved in. And that means a lot more to me, even if it's only one person, but the person that we're helping, whether it's through gainful employment or they're one of our residents or tenants of some sort, in the fashion that we help them, that is much more valuable to me than helping someone on Blake, there you are, helping someone on the streets who's decided to do drugs or something stupid to put them into a bad situation. So,
hi Blake, hit us up. Let us know the up-to-date forecasts in your area.
Better be sending mailers, Blake. There's gonna be deals down there. Let's go.
Yeah, you're right. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast, and we will check you guys out soon. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.